Thank you, dear friends, for giving me the opportunity to come your way to share something with you. When I recently made a video on school fees in the Catholic Church, I received a lot of reaction and positive feedback. Some also asked me about tithes in the Catholic Church. This video then is in response to that call. As always, my videos are made for educational purposes, and I try as much as possible to get into the substance of the matter without beating around the bush. Dear friends, tithing is the practice of giving 10% of one's income or resources to a religious organization or charity. This practice originated in the Hebrew Bible. We are told that it was essentially a tax in ancient agricultural societies where farmers would give 10% of their crops and livestock to support the Levitical priest and assist the poor. However, in the New Testament, the specific 10% rule isn't explicitly commanded. That notwithstanding, early Christian teachings emphasized generous, sacrificial, and cheerful giving to support the spread of the faith and those in need. So far, based on what we have said, it is obvious that financial or material support of the church is essential. And this financial and material support must come from the people who make up the church. Therefore, to refuse to support the church is a serious mistake on the part of the person who claims to be part of the church. Now let's look at the Catholic Church and tithing. The Catholic Church does not mandate a strict tithe or require a fixed percentage of income under modern canon law. In other words, if you want to give a monthly financial support to the church, you are not required to pick a calculator to calculate 10% of your income. In the Code of Canon Law, there are some canons which talk of the obligations and rights of all the Christian faithful. These canons are canons 208 to 223. Here, one of the obligations of the Christian faithful, as found in Canon 222, paragraph 1, states, and I read, "The Christian faithful are obliged to assist with the needs of the church, so that the church has what is necessary for divine worship, for the works of the apostolate and of charity, and for the decent support of ministers." So you see, so it's an obligation to assist the church with its needs. Again, when we read the Catechism of the Catholic Church under the precepts of the church, Canon 222, as read above, is cited, stating, and I read, "The faithful also have the duty of providing for the material needs of the church, each according to his abilities," unquote. And this is found in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, number 2043. So now the question maybe some of you may be asking is, how much must I give? Dear friends, this question can only be answered by the giver. The important thing to note is why we are giving. This knowledge will determine whether what we are giving is just or not. The question is not about giving, because we have already established that it is an obligation for the Christian people to give. Why do they give? They give to support the needs of the church. And the needs of the church, as you know, are many. So in deciding how much or what to give, I recommend that you let St. Paul be your advisor. And St. Paul says in 2 Corinthians 9:7, and I quote, that each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. This is the liberty of the Christian spirit which I admire. Give freely, not reluctantly or under compulsion. It will be better not to give if your giving will end up with grumbling or complaining. In fact, prior to the verse 7 of 2 Corinthians 9, St. Paul said in verse 6, and I read, "Remember this, whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will also reap generously." So, at the end of the day, you decide on how much you want to give to help in the ministry of the church. It is important we keep in mind that our giving is fundamentally to the church and not to the priest. This understanding will help us to continue giving, even in situations where, for one reason or the other, we may have some disagreements with the priest. Stopping to give because of a priest is a disservice to the church. So let's see what is happening now. The issue of tithing, as you know, is a recurring issue. The Catholic understanding, based on what we have said so far, is very different from what other religious institutions may teach. There are still some Catholics who would like to pull their calculators to do their 10% calculations. The good news is that they still believe that they must support the church with their finances. On a lighter note, if they can put their calculators away, the better. Dear friends, in many churches, we now have monthly Thanksgiving. This is an attempt to take our minds away from the tithing mentality, as if to say tithing has been renamed as Thanksgiving. The Thanksgiving mentality is more in line with St. Paul's stance on giving, as mentioned in 2 Corinthians 9, 6 to 7. That is to say, give as much as you can. At the end of the day, it is about your conscience and sincerity before God. If indeed you believe that everything you have is a gift from God to you, why would you want to withhold anything from Him? In the early church, there was a man called Joseph. Bible says he sold a piece of property that he owned, then brought the money and put it at the feet of the apostles. And this is found in Acts chapter 4, verse 36 to 37. This was so radical, the apostles gave him another name as Barnabas, which is translated as son of encouragement. Let him be your encouragement when deciding how much to give to the church. So this is a little I would like to share with you on tithing in the Catholic Church, and I hope it has been useful to you. Once again, God bless you and thank you for your time.